What's up, guys? I am going to tell you my Grant Cardone story today. Everybody seems to have one, and everybody is seeming to use it right now. So I'm using mine. I'll tell you right now, the year is 2020, and me and my ex-business partner are thinking about leaving the brokerage we are at. We have a couple well-respected friends who are in the industry who are at EXP, and they were on Elena Cardone's team. So they set up a Zoom call with us. At this time, we have a TV show coming out, which is really exciting, and there's a lot of hype around it. It was a pretty feel-good meeting. We got on with Elena. She's explaining to us how team structure works, and I found her to be incredibly sharp, incredibly sweet. Not really anything bad to say there. And then Grant Cardone is walking by in the background. And this kind of is a surreal moment. Before your show launches, you don't really know whether you're going to be famous or not. You don't know the trajectory of it. But it just feels like things are building. And then all of a sudden you're on a Zoom call and Grant Cardone is there. So it was a pretty cool moment for us. Grant Cardone's walking by. Obviously, he knows the two people who introduced us to Elena that are also on the call. He stops. He says, "What's up?" Next thing you know, we're talking. He sits down next to Elena. Elena had to go do something with the kids or something like that. And then it's just us and Grant Cardone sitting there talking. The guy is top salesman for sure. I feel like the 10X stuff, a lot of times, it's like really flashy lifestyle stuff that pulls people in. None of that appeals to me or my ex-business partner. Say what you want to. I don't think either of those things actually appealed to us. And he realized that probably within 30 seconds and pivoted the conversation to real business, real growth, talking about what he's working on. This is before 10X health launch. So he's talking about building lifestyle brand, things like that. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm sure some of this was said in confidence. But yeah, so we just sat there and we talked to Grant Cardone for 45 minutes, and I found him to be incredibly giving with his time and never felt like he had to get off the phone. We talked about everything from the mentality behind raising your kids to how to grow your business, scaling your business, what your day-to-day should look like. He definitely tried to hard close us at the end, which was great. You know what I mean? I'm because in the back of your head, you're close me. You're like, I want to see it. And I can see how people get closed. So Grant's, a lot of people got something to say about Grant. Granted, him and Elena did have something to sell me. My one experience was good. So I don't know what to tell you about that, but that's my one experience with Grant Cardone. It was a good story. And I can also tell you that right now, we'll talk about this later in another YouTube video, Instagram video, but in a world where we're seeing people who raised money on multifamily lose their investors allegedly between 15, 20 million. And then, you're seeing the other one somewhere around 50 million. Those are the two big cases going out right now. In that world, all of a sudden, Grant is starting to look a lot better than people have given him credit for in the past. He's in depositions right now and he's posting them all on YouTube, which is a blast to watch. I think the question now is for the rest of us, it's hey, if you invest in somebody else's fund and it is multifamily, is that just what responsible payback looks like? When in a world where everybody else is losing money, not everybody, but there's some really big names doing the same rounds he's doing as far as fundraising going, and they've lost their investors' money, but Grant has not. That check comes all the time. I know people who are invested in his fund and they get a check and it's a little less than they thought it would be, but it comes. So, and I thought it was really interesting too in his depositions, and now we're just rambling. My story's over. I thought it was interesting in the depositions how he's so steadfast on that the asset eats first. I'm paraphrasing that, but essentially you hear him constantly talking about no, this money goes back into the asset. No, this money goes into reserves. No, this money, and he does not mince words over that. He's unapologetic about the fact that the asset is being upkept to a very high standard before anybody gets paid, including the investors, including him. That's a really interesting thing to look at for underwriting too. I don't know anything about the rest of it, and I'm not going to speak on it because I don't really know, and I hate when people speak on me and they don't know what's going on, but that's my Grant Cardone story. We'll talk more about these big losses that people are taking in multifamily probably in another video, because I think it's very evident now that we all got caught up in. Everybody who came into real estate post 2008, we were all part of the bigger pockets phenomenon, the rich dad, poor dad phenomenon. And while those things have really good things, they got us into real estate. They taught us how to work on real estate. They taught us about how rentals can work. I think that there was a bit of a myth around the fact that you're going to buy 10 rentals and retire, especially with leverage. You know what I mean? If you pay 10 for cash, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a high earner, and you can go, maybe that's a different story. But I think there's a lot of us who realize that income is not as passive as you think it is, or is not passive at all. So we'll talk about that in another video, probably the next one coming up. That's my Grant Cardone story. Give me some clicks. Come on, let's go. Like, subscribe, follow. We're going to do a lot more stuff, including talking about BiggerPockets, the loss that Beardy Brandy got for his clients and all that stuff. So see you soon.